Hey everybody, I have here the LEGO Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu 2019 spinners. I'm going to go through all of them in this one video. There are single spinner sets and there are double spinner sets. I will go through the singles individually and the doubles I will group as you can buy them so there's no confusion. So let's take a look at what these things are all about. We'll just start with Kai's spinner here as a representative example, and I'll give you more details here, and then the others you'll see that there will be some patterns, so I won't need to go through absolutely everything every single time. First of all, this is really nothing, and there are 3 of them in this set, and they simply exist to hold your weapon attachments. This is an actual spinner, and it's all centered around this brand new dual molded tornado piece, Spinjitzu tornado of energy, which looks really good. It is very much like what they've shown in the show since the beginning, and that's something that we've never gotten before. They've done the Airjitzu ones, they've done the Airjitzu based Spinjitzu ones, but this right here is just the closest to seeing what you would actually see in the show. Mostly minus these things. These are just the modular add-on weapons or defense pieces. So with each set, you get 3 sets of these, of 4. So there's a lot of repetitive building involved. That's identical to that's identical to that's identical to that. But these are things that you can put on and you can adjust the angles of if you want. I can bring these down. The intent is for some of these to be kind of for defense, some for, some for attacking, and some for speed, they say, for more tricks and agility. So this is more of a defense-oriented one, I would say, personally, but I mean, you really need to use your own imagination there and just kind of experiment with these things. So anyway, that's one. I'll put that on the blank holder over here. This is the simple one, and each set has a very, very simple one, usually just 2 pieces like this. You can still angle these things differently, but the idea is that you take these off and then attach them to the main tornado or cyclone piece. So you just do that. Or if you want, you can mix and match them, and you can start to customize them, because these are not rigid in what you can do with them at all. The whole idea here is to use this and to try different things. This piece right now has on the base of it a inverted 2x2 tile, and you can see that this is most likely used for attack. Just has some katanas there, and you can angle those up. I guess you could use it for a little bit of defense if they're up in a guard form, but you can also stick them out or change their angle. I'm just going to go ahead and use this as a sample for now, and I want to have these come out a little bit. I think that'll help with the stability. The idea here is that you just grab the figure from the top and give it a little spin, and it'll just spin like a top. Oh, hey, like a top from the top. Get 2 of them together and you can start to set up battles. If you get 2 of these sets, or if you just start experimenting with the different add-ons for your tornado cyclone thing, you will quickly realize that some designs are fundamentally better than others for almost all purposes. And that's just great. These are very easy to modify, to add on to change up, and physics apply. I think that these things will actually help kids to apply some of their school learning and discover some new things about reality that apply to play and toys and all things. I think that it's just a really fundamentally good platform that they've come up with here. The original Spinjitzu spinners, I think, were very good. These here may even be better. The Airjitzu ones they came up with had their interesting gimmick of being able to actually fly, but in my opinion they were relatively limited and there wasn't a lot that you could do with them yourself. Second generation Spinjitzu spinners, which were based off Airjitzu, were similarly very, very limited, if not even more limited in how you could use them. But these here are fully customizable, and you can actually do some pretty cool stuff with them, in my opinion. I mean, even just changing the angles will change how they work to some degree. I personally recommend leaving the katana out, just to have more room for your fingers to spin around, but that's entirely up to you. Fundamentally, I think these things are good. Before I show you this figure and move on to the next set, I just want to show you one other thing. Some of the new Ninjago sets come with this thing that I've referred to as an armature. It's just a little arm that is used for placing figures on there. I'll go ahead and take the figure out just to show you how it was intended. You know, put a weapon on a figure and do like this, gives you that spinning action, but this is not actually included with any of the Spinjitzu sets, unfortunately, up to this point, but these two are clearly designed to work together seamlessly. So if you get one of these, and it does have a couple of unique pieces, you can probably fashion up something like this that's custom, but if you don't have these new parts, I don't think it's going to be as efficient. If you can get one of these and use them together, this really helps, you know, for just the manual battling. It works side to side and works front to back. You can kind of change your angles of attack. It's kind of cool like that. Just has a regular small tire down here on the base, and using these together I think is a really good idea. But you don't need this, fortunately, and I don't know, maybe for some people it'll be more fun just to use this in its default form. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now these sets are using the Ninjago Legacy versions of the figures with no differences as far as I can tell so far. I will check on each one as I go through them, but this is basically a reimagined version of a DX form gi from back in the early days. It's not exactly the same, but you know, it's inspired by it. And you get, of course, a single piece cowl, because that's pretty important for actually grabbing these things and spinning them by their heads. I personally have warmed a little bit to the new design, but I still like some older designs better. It's fully subjective though. But overall, I think the figure is produced pretty well. The dual molding for the cowl piece, good prints for the torso, hip, and leg pieces, and got 2 facial expressions. I already brought Jay in for a little cameo there, so let's take a look at his set, and then I'll show you one of the double spinner sets, one of the Versus sets. So again, same basic pattern here with a lighter weight, longer range, attacking style of set of you know, add-ons for the main spinner piece itself. These bases do nothing but hold the thing up. It would be kind of cool, I think, if you could just change these out entirely, you know, if there's just a single cartridge that you could switch around, but that's not how it works, and I think that's okay. It's not that difficult to just pull these off and, you know, switch them around. And I'm glad that they don't force you to just have these little bits, like something like this, where you've got these little things just laying around, you know, where you have to have them in a Ziploc bag or something. And, you know, if you don't, then they become easy to lose. This is a particularly powerful one because you have a lot of weight out here, and the more weight you have, the more inertia you build up, the more likely you are to continue going when you strike something else. So this works pretty well, but you do have that possibility, if you hit another heavy one or another fast spinning one, to knock off some of these pieces. Now, I've actually not been able to knock these particular ones off, these crystals, because they're pretty tough and they have a lot of clutch power down onto their bases, which actually use brackets there. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But this works out pretty well. And again, you can change the angles of things as long as they're not going to get in the way of your fingers and your hands. You can bring these down, which also changes the placement of the weight a bit, changes the stability, and also the total amount of force required to get it going. There's just so much going on with these things. These are relatively lightweight. These do fall off, but in my experience, they don't very frequently come off from battle, from actually, you know, knocking them against each other. Rather, they'll just fall off from handling, because when you strike, you're going against the clip, so it takes quite a bit of force to pop that out, and you usually don't get that much force. But you know, if you just do like that, it bends out easily. No big deal. Another simple one here, and that's pretty much all there is for this one. You've already seen this guy spinning, but I'll bring this down very awkward. Oh, no focus, no focus. Terrible. But this works really well. And all of these work really well, but the more weight you put on there, the better. Here again, the Neo DX style for the outfits. The production values are very consistent across these. The designs are as consistent as reasonably possible. So the designers didn't really give favor to one over another in this series. There are a couple of them that are a bit different, but they will be obvious as I get to them. For the most part, it just looks like all of these would have similar levels of power just looking at them. And it just comes down to which personality you prefer and which element you prefer. Right, now things get a little bit more serious with one of the 2 spinner sets, Lloyd versus Garmadon here. This will probably be one of the better selling ones because it has 2 and because it has an actual bad guy, and it's not just about, if you stick to just this series, it's not just about practicing with one versus another in this case. This is a high defense setup for Lloyd right now. Everything is tucked in real close. There's a lot of weight on there, so this, even though it's not very wide, it will still continue going for a while. And it is going to work really well against something like this, where you have this high attack with all the blades out there, but they're very thin and there's not a lot of weight. These tend to get stopped by things like this, and attacks from things like this tend to just bounce off designs like this. But again, do your own experimentation. I highly recommend it. So from spinner to spinner, they change the colors, both colors in them, and I think that both of these color combinations work really nicely. I like that trans purple, especially when you see some light coming through it, and the trans bright green is very bright and works well with the gold. I'm glad they went with the bright green and not just a regular green or so-called dark green, the classic Lego trans green, which is a cool color, but not this cool, I think. These are all printed pieces. There are no stickers included here, which totally makes sense. You want things to be more durable. You want them to be more ready to go out of the box, which already they kind of aren't ready to go. You can, this is mostly one piece. You just put the base on it, stick a figure in there, and start to spin them. But when it comes to building up all of these things, each one has some pretty small pieces in it, or most of them have some pretty small pieces that need to be lined up. So they actually take some time to assemble, which was unexpected, but pretty nice. Let's take a look at some of these other weapon options. Wow, that has some reach, eh? So that would definitely build up some inertia just by virtue of how far from the axis of rotation some of this weight is, but it's not that much weight out there. Some nice pieces though, with the dragon hilts all in the new pearl gold color. You will find that with the other gold pieces included throughout this series, Lego's still in the process of going through their old inventory. So like that right there is a new pearl gold piece. That right there is an old pearl gold piece. The old one is just a little bit brighter and not as metallic looking. I personally like the new much better. It just looks more fancy. But yeah, so you get a lot of range here, and you can still adjust. By going down, you can attach these upside down if you want. Try different stuff. This just looks cool because it's different, and you can use those snakes to attack. Now, these actually do kind of get knocked out of the way if you go up against, especially if they're arranged like this around a spinner, to really have those snake heads facing outward. These can get knocked back by high defense things sometimes. They'll just get knocked out of the way there, which is cool. Just have a little bit of feeling, of sense of damage. And then this is very cool looking. Also gets caught very, very easily. It's just something different. I definitely recommend mounting these upward a little bit like that, so they just look like those pincers from some very evil, dark beetle devil souls or something. It's very insectoid in their appearance. And again, printed pieces in there. And then here's just a lightweight version. So these are the two lightweight versions here. This is one of the more complex lightweight setups. of all of them. Here are just 2 pieces per corner. And yeah, that's it for this set. The figures, Lloyd and Garmadon, again, present no real surprises here. You know, I got the Neo DX style for Lloyd. Again, not making him look too fancy or too special or anything. And then Garmadon, you know, has the full height, which is interesting. His helmet isn't quite as good for spinning. It just doesn't grab the head as well as the cowls do. It's just not as much attachment to it. And then you also have the bone up here. I don't know. That may vary a little bit from unit to unit, from piece to piece. But I just find the Ninja to be easier to spin up. And for faces, of course, you just have that one face for Garmadon himself, but 2 for Lloyd. And I do want you to see the rest of the main torso print down here at the base of Garmadon with the rest of the ribs. Zane's whole setup is pretty crazy and takes some patience to put together with all of the small parts that need to be aligned. This looks so icy or crystalline. It's very, very cool. Has a lot of weight on it, very consistent looking. And again, you can always adjust the angles of these as you like. Almost sometimes looks like these pieces are made with glitter in them, like some of Lego's, you know, embedded glitter parts, but they're not. They're all just regular, plain Translite blue, but works out just fine. So that's one version. And then he has the lightweight version, or the lightweight set of add-ons, which is just like that, you know, just the simplest, as simple as they come. And then this is pretty crazy because you can change the angles in 2 places with those arrow blade bases at the centers. So you can kind of curve them around this way. You can bring them up. You can bring them all the way down, which actually doesn't work so well because these will touch the ground pretty quickly and easily unless you get a perfect spin, perfectly balanced. But yeah, something different. These are probably some of the more fragile ones with a lot of pieces that are easy to misalign accidentally or to get misaligned during battle. I don't really like this setup, to be honest with you, in practice, you know, to put together and to keep together. But at least the parts are there. It gives you something distinctly different from any of the others. You know, they're not just changing out colors on everything, which is great. So, you know, at least this is food for thought, and they have pieces here that you can try out. And, you know, at the very least, like these 1x1 modified plates with the clips, you can put those 2 side by side instead and start attaching things in different ways. Add some of your own pieces, make it more durable. If you find issues with any of these, just fix them. Try different things. I think it's nice to see Zane in a mostly white outfit again. You know, he's gone through some different stages, but, you know, just to have him in this relatively classic form is, I don't know, just kind of comforting to see. The production on this one is not quite as good. You can see the legs are a little bit fuzzy with their prints, but the design work, I think, is pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Got the blue on the back there, metallic, and he has the Lego Movie faces again. Not the best print for the teeth there. See, it's not very bright. That's too bad. Wu and Nia come together in a single set, and you can either see that as a training scenario where Wu is training Nia full contact, and, you know, they're actually demonstrating and using their techniques against each other as she tries to learn and further master her control over water. Or you could just see this as a 2-pack of good guys. You know, however you want to do that, or both. You know, do some training and then go out into the field together, going against some bad guys. Both of these are interesting and stand out from the others in the series. So here, Wu right now has on his tornado of energy there, just the lightweight setup, which has more pieces. Well, one of the lightweight setups has more pieces than most of the others. His main color here is just clear, which is different, but it works, you know. White down here on the base. Let me get another one of these. So this can be changed around a bit, put into more of a defensive posture. Still some barbs. These can be moved around a little bit as you hit them but fortunately these little barbed tooth claw pieces don't tend to pop out easily. They're a little bit of a pain to put in the first place, just a little bit, but they don't come out readily, so that's good. And then this option is funky, kind of comical. It's got the flaming teapots. These do get knocked off relatively easily, possibly the most easily of any of the attachments of any of these sets. There's just not a lot of good force holding that together. Just when it bends, it tends to want to come out. But that is what it is. The little flame pieces actually don't come out that easily, which is interesting, at least in my experience so far. But yeah, you can have these angled up, you can have them angled down, and of course, as always, these are just going to be connected to the tornado parts. Looking at Nia, well, this is fancy. There's the glitter, eh? Lots of it. Plenty of it. It's just a regular silver glitter in clear, and it's just her main cyclone tornado piece that has that. The other parts don't have any of the glitter. You got the translight blue, which is actually translucent here. It's not it's not the hardest plastic. It's a little bit flexible, and it has a little bit of frostiness to it, not fully clear. And you got the dark azure accent color. This is pretty elegant looking. Depending upon which way you want to spin, you'll want to build these differently. So this really wants to be spun counterclockwise. If you spin it clockwise, then as you hit things, if you have enough force there, these will just rotate out of the way and they'll start to mess up your balance, and you don't want that. So I recommend that you have the water spurts going in the going away from the direction of rotation at all times. So you can bring these down. You can even bring these all the way in if you want. They don't get too close to the ground, just for a different look, which is kind of elegant. Set up like that, kind of scrolly bits, how they appear. And this is her lightweight version, which totally makes sense for her. More glitter there, this time actually in the light blue. Those parts have been made available in that color previously. These hold themselves together pretty well now. This is pretty extreme because you get so much reach there, and there's also a lot of weight. So this is representing her staff weapons, just projecting from the swirl of energy. It's interesting, it's different. These you definitely do not want to have angling down at all, because they are so long, they will hit the ground very quickly, and that'll just slow you down and take your own momentum away. I recommend trying actually attaching these upside down. Oops, I just put that in backwards. But try attaching these upside down when you put them onto this, so that you can angle them up a bit like that, But again, of course, just experiment as you like. The figures, again, are inspired by the classics, but of course, Nia was not a water ninja originally in the days of the DX versions, DX transformations. So, this is a little bit of revisionist history here, and it's explained by the little mini-series that they did between seasons 9 and 10. It's not supposed to be entirely accurate, but it's an interesting device that they came up with. Some people probably don't even want to believe any of it because it changes things a bit, and that's okay. It's completely understandable. There's her face, his face, as well as the rest of the print for his torso, and one alternate face just for Nia. And then here's Cole, and it should be no surprise that his set comes with some relatively heavy add-on pieces for bludgeoning attacks. You got the rocks coming out here from the earth-based attacks, and with these large pieces, these dark gray kind of claw or just rock texture parts, those are super durable, super durable. I don't think you're going to find another attack, another version that will outlast these, at least of the official ones. It's very strong, and you can change the characteristics of this quite a bit, going from having them way out to having them in. You can actually take that underneath piece off to get a little bit more range, but then it'll have the ability to break off. You won't have as much strength there. Just something to consider if you want to actually have things be able to break off. By default, this won't allow that. There's the lightweight version, which is just more of the same, simplest stuff, and then this is the most special thing with some actual hammers. You build up every single hammer. That took a little bit of time and some patience to get everything lined up just right. This works very effectively. Again, be mindful of your direction of spin. If you're going clockwise, this is going to work great. If you're going counterclockwise, you might want to just rotate the hammer heads around like this. And then coal is coal. Over time, they've tried brown for him. They've tried orange for him. This goes with the dark brown with just a little bit of orange in it. So a little bit of old, a little bit of new, a little bit of modern. Dark brown is a relatively new color. It's been around for some years, but relative to like orange or black or any of the primary ones. It's got the scale mail underneath his gi. You can see it through there. I'm sure that's what that's intended to be. Good production on this one, thankfully. Everything's nice and crisp. Dual molding always works great for any pieces. So for the cowl, nice, again, crisp print on the back of the torso. That mouth is fuzzy though. That's not dust on the model, on the piece. It's just the print there. It can be scraped off, but you want to be very careful with that because you can take some of the glossiness off the finish of the plastic. This face is done better. Wow, that was actually a lot of stuff to go through. I think there's a lot of value here too. With each set, $10 US for the individuals, $20 US for the doubles, similar prices everywhere else. And I mean, it's all about the actual use, the actual play, and the experimentation here. I feel like Spinjitzu is back finally in full force, and it's back in very good form. These to me seem as good as the originals, if not better, in how they can actually be played and customized and reasonably realistically used with your hands. And they look good. They look better than ever. This specialized piece that they made is right. It's really right. And it works well too. Just the bar attachments there. The ability to attach it to one of the spinning arm tools. It's just too bad that none of these come with that spinning arm tool. You have to get a separate box set to get one of those. I think that would have made more sense to include one, even just a very simple build version of one, with at least the double packs. Would have given a little extra incentive to buy those, and I think would have brought a lot more value to this series without having to go to the separate sets. But these, as they are, just as they are, very good, and you can make them better yourself very easily. So I'm very happy here, very satisfied, and very glad that LEGO has, like I said, brought Spinjitzu back, and they've done it right. That's it for my thoughts. You can check out my builds of all of these and see just how tedious it was to put together so many of the little attachments, because I was doing all of them in a single video. You can find that over on my build channel, and I will link to that right now, and I'll talk to you again soon. That was terrible.